So she was in this position of pure confusion. Like, what is the truth? Like, is there a God that is judging every single action, or is there no God at all? Is the God of Islam the right God, or is the God of Christianity the right God? I think a lot of us, as we're going through a growing up process, we get confronted with this reality that, wait, maybe the belief structure that we grew up with, maybe the way that we were perceiving reality our entire life, maybe is not the right way to perceive reality. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Reed if you're new, and I make videos every week that document my self-growth journey. So if any of that resonates with you, or there is only one of that, if you resonate with the concept of self-growth journeys, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. It helps me out so much. Like, knowing that there is a community of support behind me, a community of people that are interested in what I have to say and maybe benefit from it. It's just like so motivating and inspiring, and it just makes me feel so happy and fulfilled, and like I'm doing something of value and contributing to the world in a positive way for people. Anyway, today's video is about belief systems, and I feel like belief systems have been a topic that I've been extremely interested in throughout most of my conscious life. And I say conscious life because I feel like before university, I wasn't self-aware. I just kind of did what I did. I didn't really reflect on why I was doing what I was doing. People told me what to do when I did it, and it wasn't that much of an issue. But then I got to university, and that's where I was able to start living a more independent life. And because I got this independence and I didn't have people around me telling me what to do, that was the first opportunity that I had to really determine for myself what it was that I wanted to do in life and what I wanted my life to look like at all. And that was the first time I started reflecting on all of the experiences that I was having and had in my life up to that point. And that is when I came across a lot of conflict. I have a whole playlist about this topic, about the topic of having thoughts and beliefs that were not in line with the thoughts and beliefs of the people that I grew up with, my family. They are from a Pakistani Muslim background. And because I was living in Toronto, and because they grew up in Pakistan, we had extremely different life experiences. And obviously, when you have different life experiences, you see the world from a different perspective. And there's so much beauty in that, but there's also a lot of conflict that can emerge, because if someone holds these expectations on you to be a certain way and act a certain way and believe certain things, namely, like if your parent has a way that they view the world and a way that they perceive reality, that perception of reality, that belief structure is what kind of holds their life together. And because it's the thing that holds their life together, they're very attached to it. And they hold on really tightly, because if they let go of these belief structures that they spent their whole life building up and reinforcing, it's hard to let go, because if you let go, that means you no longer understand the world around you, and that can be really scary and bring up a lot of fear. In South Asian culture, especially, when a person has a child, they see their child as an extension of themselves, and as a result, they have very specific expectations that they place on that child, because they feel in some way that they own the child, because they created it. So they have all these expectations of how the child should be, what the child should do. Even if you're not from a South Asian culture, or generally an Asian culture at all, you've still probably heard that Indian parents or Chinese parents or Asian parents in general, they are very strict. They want their kids to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or one of these very traditionally respectable professions. And that kind of thinking, it bears a huge burden on the child, because they've got their parent constantly telling them what to do and constantly telling them that they're wrong and that the parent is right and things like that. But this all is circulating around belief systems and how people perceive realities. When it comes to professions and career, it's like, I'm the parent and I know from my experience, from what I've seen in the world, that doctors, lawyers, engineers, they make a lot of money. And when you make a lot of money, you are very secure in your survival capability. Like, you will be fine, you know, like you will have a good life because you will be taken care of. You'll have enough food to eat. You'll have a place to live always, things like that. And this kind of thinking can be traced back. A lot of countries in Asia, they are developing countries. And in developing countries, you do see a lot more scarcity than you do in first world countries. Like, if you go to Pakistan, if you go on a drive, you'll see beggars, you know, like you'll see people who are literally do not have enough to eat. And so this really shapes the way that you perceive reality. And that's the kind of life experience that a lot of Asian parents perceive when they are living their life. So when they come to Canada, it no longer applies here as much because we have so many more opportunities here, which is actually ironic because a lot of the time our parents come to these first world developed countries because there are so many opportunities. Yet they're still holding on to this past belief of how in Pakistan, in India, in China, and whatever, the people who had a lot of money, the people who weren't fighting to survive, the people who had enough to feed their kids, they all had these really respectable traditional roles in society. So there were doctors and lawyers and engineers and things like that. When you come into Canada, they still kind of hold on to these beliefs, yet in Canada it doesn't really apply as much. And so when I grew up, I didn't experience any of this scarcity in front of me. Like, I only saw people in privileged positions as relative to developing countries. And so I have a very, very different experience of life, and I have a very different lived reality than my parents. Therefore, as a result, we have different belief systems. Belief systems are developed based on what you have perceived, whether it's someone that told you what to believe, it's something that you experienced yourself, which made you interpret an event in a specific way and things like that. So that obviously, if you're having different experiences and you see different things in your life, you have different types of conversations with the people around you, it completely changes the way you perceive the world and perceive reality. So we, as the children of immigrants, can be kind of put into this position of just complete confusion of identity and confusion of belief structures, because the way that our parents see the world and the way that we see the world are completely different. So back when I started university and I was able to start thinking for myself, and I was able to start interpreting the events that were happening around me from my own personal individual lens, I started diverting from the belief system that I was taught growing up, and that belief system being Islam. I started having conflicting thoughts. Like, I didn't resonate with these structures that my parents believed in, because to me it didn't make sense, because from my life experiences, what they had taught me didn't really apply as well. So I diverted, and over the past couple of years, if you watch my videos again, you'll kind of be able to see more of a gradual process. Like, it's really interesting actually to see my development over the years of first being in a kind of like questioning period, still unsure if what I'm thinking is the right way to think, and then actually like taking steps to move forward into a kind of life that I chose to live and things like that, and shedding expectations and shedding all of these potential ways of being that I personally didn't resonate with. So anyway, I got a question on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even a month ago, I don't even remember at this point, and it was this girl who had a very similar upbringing to me. She was telling me about how she was questioning the religion of Islam. In some moments of her life, she was very much still in belief of the religion because she grew up believing it, you know, she was used to believing it. So like some of the stuff made a lot of sense to her. However, in other moments of her life, some of the things that she had been taught through the belief structure of Islam completely didn't resonate and didn't align with what she personally was experiencing, the way she was interpreting the world. And so she was in this position of pure confusion. Like, what is the truth? Like, is there a God that is judging every single action, or is there no God at all? Is the God of Islam the right God, or is the God of Christianity the right God, etc.? Like, there's so many different types of religions in the world. There's so many different types of spiritual traditions. So I think a lot of us, as we're going through a growing up process, we get confronted with this reality that, wait, maybe the belief structure that we grew up with, maybe the way that we were perceiving reality our entire life, maybe is not the right way to perceive reality. And so when you're in that beginning stages, you're like, okay, well, then it's very destabilizing, because you're like, well, what the heck? So I was so used to and so comfortable with just having the answers to everything. In Islam, it's like, if I do good things, if I follow the things in the Quran, if I read the Quran, if I pray and stuff, I'm going to go to heaven after I die, But if you no longer believe that anymore and you're questioning parts of that religion, then you start feeling a lot of fear and anxiety. You're like, okay, if I don't believe in Islam, then I don't know what happens after I die. And this brings up a lot of existential dread. And if you're in that right now, even if it's hard right now, even if everything's confusing, just know that the clarity will come. Just keep moving forward. It will come. I was in your spot. Things are not going to be confusing for you forever. You will find your way. I promise. It might not be the least turbulent path of life. However, eventually you will get to your truth. And I say your truth because that's the answer. Like, when you ask the question, like the girl in the Instagram DM asked me, she said, how do I know what to believe? Like, what is the truth? Because my parents and my family are so strict in their belief that Islam is the only truth. But I personally, inside, it doesn't feel like the truth to me, because all of these things in it don't make sense to the way that I perceive reality. And so the truth to that question, how do you know what is true? You have to understand that every single person has a different truth. And this can be kind of confusing to understand, because you're like, well, isn't there one absolute truth? There is one absolute truth, but I think that one absolute truth is very, very difficult to put into words, put into the limited languages that we as humans have created. And so therefore, it is up to you to kind of find your slice of truth. And for some people, their slice of truth, what rings really, really true to them, is in organized religion like Islam, like Hinduism, like Buddhism, like Christianity, like Judaism. And to them, that is their truth, and if they feel conviction that is their truth, and so it is. But if you're someone like me and you don't align with any of the pre-made spiritual traditions, pre-made religions, then the way to find your truth is by listening to that inner guidance within you. I always talk about this. If you look on my channel, I talk about intuition, because that is genuinely what has helped me through every struggle in my life. It's this inner voice, this inner guidance that tells me what is true to me. And what is true to me is not necessarily true to everyone else. Like, for example, there's people out there that believe in fairies. And if you look up on YouTube, fairies, there's YouTubers out there that talk about their encounters with fairies. Most of the people that I know in my life, when they think of fairy, they think of a fantasy mystical character that exists in fiction. But there's genuinely people out there, and they're not weird people, they're eloquently spoken. They base their whole channels on these subjects, of these like mystical subjects, things that you would think are purely restricted for fiction. They have very real experiences that they personally can share that prove the existence of something like a fairy to them. But because when I watch that, because I have never had an experience personally encountering a fairy in my life, it can be really hard for me to believe them. And that's what I mean by saying, like, to that person, fairies are real, because to that person, they have had personal experiences that indicate to them that fairies are real. Being someone else that isn't that person, I can easily be like, well, they're lying, they're etc., they're etc. It doesn't matter, okay? Like, when you respect other people, you respect that their truth is their truth, and you can choose to believe them and you can choose to not believe them, but it is not up to you to tell them what truth is. I can disagree with the fact that fairies exist, but I cannot go to their face and just tell them that what they personally experienced was not a real thing to experience. So that's what I mean when I say that each person's truth is their own truth. Fairies exist for that person, but fairies don't exist for me. God, Allah, exists for one person because they have very real experiences in their life that reinforce this belief. God exists for that person, but the same God, the same type of God, Allah, doesn't exist for me in that same exact way. I still believe in a higher power, but I do not believe that this higher power has laid out strict rules and regulations about how we should live. I have like a more broad truth of what God means. Your truth is your truth. And the only person who knows your truth is you. The only way you can unveil that truth for yourself is by listening to that inner guidance and that intuition. When you come across something that is true to you, that may not be true for someone else, you are going to feel it. It's not going to be like, oh, I conceptually believe this to be true. Like, if you have an experience that unveils a part of your truth to you, you will feel it deep in your soul. Like, for example, when I realized that Islam was not my truth, I felt it in my, like, I felt it deep within, and that's what led me to this whole questioning period. It wasn't like I could ignore the questioning, you know, because there were so many times at the beginning of that questioning journey where I felt like I wished I could just go back to believing in it blindly, because my life would be so much easier if I wasn't questioning it. I would still have my family the way that it was before. I wouldn't have been disowned. Like, all of these things wouldn't have happened in my life, but that conviction, that inner knowing that something in my life wasn't right, something in my life wasn't reflecting my personal truth, that is what drove me forward. And that's why I say that my intuition is what helped and guided me through everything and has put me in the position where I am today, where I can speak so openly and so like freely about all of these things, and I no longer have those triggering pains that are associated with those traumatic events that happened to me in my past. So that's your answer in a long-winded way. If you don't know what to believe, ask yourself what feels right. Don't try to conceptualize it. Don't try to intellectualize it. You will feel the truth, and you will feel it in your intuition, in your gut feelings. You will feel it in your body. And this is a very, very personal experience. Each individual, like I said, has their own truth. As a result, they have their own ways of uncovering the truth. And I can tell you what my experience was, but I can assure you that your personal experience, your path to the truth, to your personal truth, will be different than the path that I took. And a thing that I recognized recently, if you're someone who is unsure about intuition and you don't really know where to start with that or things like that, just what do you want to do? Like, what do your desires lead you to? If you're questioning religion, what makes you feel happier? Does it make you feel happier to believe in a religion like Islam, or does it make you feel happier to believe in whatever you want to believe, or kind of put that belief system on hold and kind of wait and see what is uncovered for you? This is your moment to make that choice. Do you want to live a happy life? If you want to live a happy life, if you want to feel fulfilled and joyful and things like that, you really got to commit, you know? You've got to make sure that every single decision you make is in line with that happiness. And that starts all with thoughts, and it starts with your belief structures. Are you choosing belief structures that make you feel fear, that make you feel dread, that make you feel guilt, that make you feel just awful about yourself and scared of existence? Or do you want to choose a different belief system that makes you feel excited to be alive, that makes you feel grateful for this amazing life? Like, what? This is amazing that we are experiencing this, you know? And that's I really encourage you to follow the paths that lead you to this feeling of just pure wonder at what is what, just gratefulness, just a feeling of gratefulness for your life alone, just your life, not your things, not your possessions, not other people in your life, but the fact that you are alive. What leads you to that? That is your truth. That's it. That's my video. Thanks for watching. Wow, I feel like I got real heated in that, but heated in like the most positive way ever. I tried to film this video yesterday, and although I talked for like an hour, nothing came out. And so like nothing of substance I feel came out, and then my camera cut out midway, and it was just like, ugh, you know what? I tried to film a video and I guess the energy wasn't there or something was not aligned, and so I couldn't produce it. But I came back today and I feel like I'm really happy with what just came out of my mouth. I don't exactly remember what it was, but I feel like it's helpful information. And if it is, please let me know in the comments below. That helps me. It helps me a lot, just increasing my engagement levels on my channel. It recommends my videos to more people, allowing more people to see my messages. And you can also like my video. And if you enjoy my company, please feel free to subscribe as well. I'm so excited for where this channel is heading. I keep saying this, but it feels different now. Like when I make my videos, it doesn't feel like a chore anymore. It doesn't feel like an obligation. I don't feel stressed anymore. I just feel like I'm living my purpose, and it's amazing. So thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here, and see you very, very soon.